It's not going anywhere. There we go. Welcome to Order Militaris Radio TV, and we rely upon Catholics, and what we do is all for free, and for our love of Jesus Christ, and for Holy Mother, the Church, and will defend our Holy Mother, the Church. Order Militaris Radio TV is my apostolate as knight in the Order of Order Militaris Catholicus. Back in 2016, after the martyrdom of Father Jacques Hamel, I helped co-found the order with Brother Alexis Bonello, and he'll tell you more about it.
Thank you, AJ, for having me on Order Militaris Radio TV. And those were the Halakon days, as they use a classical Greek reference. And done a lot of social media promotion. We've raised lots of funds for suffering Christians around the world, always from our computer desk until this year. So there are a lot of people going social media to chit chat. We have always been on social media for one purpose alone, helping persecuted Christians and to encourage others to want to help and to encourage that spirit in a noble, chivalric manner in the true sense of those words. So this year we've decided to up our game, as we say in colloquial Americanism, not just raise funds, but actually go to a war zone and start some project helping people on the ground. So we set up a commandery in Poland, in Warsaw, and now one in Kyiv, and I'm standing in the hallway of our commandery in Kyiv. And we want to do a lot for Ukraine and for Ukrainians because they are Christians. They're being persecuted unjustly. And they're being persecuted by a terrorist state. As recent news, you might have heard the missile attacks on an apartment building in Kyiv, and then just yesterday, the most horrible and horrific attack on a shopping mall with 1,000 women and children in it at broad noon, being bombed by cruise missiles at Kremenchuk, Ukraine. And the death toll is up to 18 and 56 people injured. And we mean like dismembered, gravely injured. The people who died were either blown up or burnt alive. And that's Russia. And that's clearly terrorism. So we're an order dedicated to defending Christians, especially against terrorism. And so it's only right that we be in the Ukraine. And we have a lot of projects, and we have hopes of doing great things to Ukrainian people, because AJ and I and all the members of the order who pledge, we're big-hearted people, and we want to do all that we can. But we're limited in what we can do. I'm a Franciscan friar. I gave all my wealth to the poor when I became a friar back in 1991. And AJ is a vaccine-injured young man, can't even go out in the sunlight or his skin will burn because of what was done to him. So we both don't have incomes. So, but we do what we can do. When we founded the order in 2016, we didn't say we can't do anything. We're going to do everything that we can do. And there's a lot more people in the world, Catholics, who can do more than we. And it's our hope to encourage them in that. We're not envious or jealous that they could do more. We want them to do more, however they do it. So Russian propaganda, you know, is very strong, and they have basically weaponized many conservative Christians into attacking other Christians like ourselves who are helping Ukrainian Christians. Mm-hmm. It's just totally unbelievable and quite unexpected, but has happened. So we're doing this program today to encourage you to join with us in being on the ground there in the Ukraine, not as volunteers, but as financial supporters. Something that isn't going to cost you anything other than pressing a button and some generous hard-earned money that you may have. But that's the only way it's going to get done. So,
so the first need as you can rightly see in here. The need, the need for humanitarian aid for Ukrainian refugees for food, clothing, and housing.
It was reported in the news yesterday that just here in the city of Kyiv, 128 apartment buildings have been destroyed and made uninhabitable. Where have all those people gone? The building that was attacked on Sunday morning, I heard the explosions from where I live, because it's in the same part of town where I live. People were living in a building that had been attacked back in April because they had nowhere to go. And one person was killed and a number of people were injured. Why haven't they moved out of that building? They have nowhere to go. And one thing people don't understand about Ukrainians is that they're very poor people. We're not talking about wealthy people. You might misunderstand that if you see Kyiv. Kyiv is the wealthiest city. There's a lot of poor people in Ukraine, and I've seen houses in the Ukraine that you wouldn't live in if you found them in Appalachia. Appalachians wouldn't live them in Appalachia. These are houses as poor as you might find the dirt poor living in the 50s in the South somewhere in some small town, if even that. So who's going to help these people? And as Christians, aren't we obliged to help our brothers in Christ?
Mm-hmm.
And who can really object to clothing, housing, or feeding poor Christians who are victims of war? I don't care what your politics is. I don't care how much you love or hate Russia. If you're a Christian, how can you say no to that? Now, someone might say, well, I want to help poor victims of the war who are Russians. Well, you have noble sentiments, but the war is not in Russia. There might be some victims in Russia because some of their supply bases have been blown up or buildings have caught fire. And if you're a Christian in Russia, you should be helping those people. We're talking about Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians are the ones who've suffered the most. You don't have Russian refugees flooding other countries of the world. Here on Sunday, 25 families lost their housing. Where are they going to go? I immediately contacted the mayor and the vice mayor. I said, we're willing to help with the little we have. How much we could help? We have $3,500 in our humanitarian fund. So reasonably, that could rent an apartment for you might rent a very small apartment for 1 year here in Kyiv. We're talking about a 2-bedroom apartment, very small, low quality. If you could find something for $300 a month, that's one family.
Yeah.
Now, if we had strong support in our humanitarian fund, I could tell the mayor not only that we want to help, we can help, and we can house all 25 of them, because tomorrow I'm going to call up every real estate agent in town. I'm going to find 25 apartments for these people in buildings that haven't been hit.
Yeah.
And that aren't near military installations. Wouldn't that be Christian charity? Of course that would be. And that's what Christ means about the parable of the Samaritan. You don't know who this person is, but you're going down the road and there he is. You don't know who Ukrainian people are, but you turned on Twitter, you've turned on Facebook, you've turned on the TV and you've seen their suffering. So now you know something about it. So I implore you as a Christian, I'm not even saying I'm going to implore you as a human being, because this is much higher values than just being human. As a Christian, consider helping us in our humanitarian fund. We have done a lot of humanitarian work. We have sent $500 to the Christians in Mosul, and we raised, I think, over $5,000 for the Christian refugees from Syria. And $6,000 for the Armenians who were blown up when the port blew up in Beirut, Lebanon. And we've helped Christian children in school in South India, and Christian veterans who've been wounded in Armenia, and Catholic churches have been attacked in Poland, and priests who've been persecuted in the United States and even in other countries. Yeah. So this is. But we're even more obliged, as our orders actually has a house now in the Ukraine, to help the Ukrainians. And I wish I could do more. I mean, I've been here in the Ukraine 5-6 weeks. I'm really limited. The Ukrainians I do help when I'm helping them out of the money that my benefactors give me from my support. I am not using humanitarian fund because, first of all, we have to have, I incorporated the nonprofit. Now we're getting a bank account. But even when I do, that money would go, you know, in less than a month with all the needs there are. So people, I think in the 1st of March, we raised like 3,000. But lately, in the last couple of weeks, no one is sending anything, although we have 3 generous souls that pledge $20 a month. So you like Order Militaris Radio TV, I ask you, why do you like the programs? Yeah. And you see AJ and I talk about a whole bunch of programs that we don't have to make. We do it for the love of Holy Mother Church and to defend the church. Now we're asking you to give something back. We're not even asking you help the station, you know. I want to thank that one donor who's been sending $10 for every program we make. Since I mentioned about a month ago that that's about all we get in support for the programs we make. We're not doing this for money. But now we're asking you for poor, suffering Christians, victims of war. And I would ask you to be more generous. I'm not even going to mention that our nonprofit in the Ukraine needs a vehicle because I don't know anyone who would even imagine wanting to donate us the $20,000 to buy a vehicle so our volunteers get around. I'll start by asking for the food, clothing, and housing funds for needy Ukrainians. And there's a link. AJ is going to put it under this video, and we'll take you to Order Militaris Radio TV page where you can find the link either to the page where you can donate by PayPal or send a bank wire from most major countries in the world.
Next, we have to help the Christian soldiers of Ukraine. They need proper gear, helmets, boats, uniforms, plate carriers with chest rigging with all the pockets, and also level 4 body armor.
And level 4 body helmets. Most Ukrainians who volunteer are so eager to volunteer, they go to the front without anything. The Ukrainian government gives them a rifle and a few rounds of ammunition. If they have in their own possession boots, pants, and shirts, but that's not even a uniform, they don't even have a backpack. They don't have any body armor. These are people who, once they get shot once, they're going to be dead. And it was just, I think there was an article published today. They interviewed a member, U.S. veterans fighting for Ukraine. He says, the whole units without equipment, entire units. We need to mobilize to give them full military kit. And we're on, today is June, what is it today? It's June 26th.
June 28th.
June 28th. AJ and I got the idea of giving a full military kit to these volunteers in the first weeks of March. And we've had an appeal out there, and I want to thank the one donor who has donated a full military kit. But we haven't done a program just on that, and we'll include it here. Now, I know a full military kit is $2,500. It's not a small donation, but this is where you can really certify to everyone that you support Ukraine. There's some people donating, yeah, I donated $5 to buy me a coffee campaign, and that's good. But, you know, if you want in the sight of God and the sight of men to say, I've really done something, $2,500 is a thing. However, that's the PayPal thing. If you want to do a bank wire, you can do any amount, $10, $25, $50, and you can send a bank wire for helping us get military equipment to these brave Ukrainians, whether they're Ukrainian citizenship or foreigners fighting with the Ukraine. For any amount of money from the United States, Canada, all the countries of Europe, yep, many of the wealthier countries of Asia, Australia, New Zealand. And so the opportunities for all. St. Francis of Assisi, and I pointed this out to my readers at Front. St. Francis of Assisi got his vocation because he was on his way to southern Italy to fight in the papal army. And alongside him on the road, he met a poor knight who didn't have armor. And he was just the son of a merchantman. And he had a full set of armor. And he gave his armor and his horse to this poor knight. And he returned home in shame. Everyone thought he was a coward. But he felt it was more important that a knight went properly accoutred to war than the son of a merchant. And he couldn't go to war because he'd give away his military kit. But that's when his vocation began. And that was a grace that changed the world. So if you are in need of great grace, or you are thankful to God for great graces in your life, think of doing something like St. Francis did, who was a man of peace, but knew that when injustice prevailed, someone has to go to war to restore peace.
Mm-hmm. Now, this one's been causing a lot of grief. We also were contacted, given a letter by Ole, the commander of the Carpathian Sikh unit, who was recently killed in battle, to help get his guys better drones to see at night.
Not only drones, but also pants, shoes, boots, shirts, summer uniform, knee pads, all kinds of essential things. Then I heard he was killed, and I can't explain to you how bad I feel that he wrote me a letter asking for this equipment, and we couldn't muster giving a single item on it after a month of appeals. Yeah. Because of the people who follow us on social media are evidently either financially incapable of helping or unwilling to help.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I even put, hey, this is the group that asked us for help, and the commander asked us for help, and I put the link for the stuff, and I was like, I was hoping and expecting, and like, oh, those guys were contacted to help these guys. Nothing. Whenever they made news and took out 4 Russian tanks, I was like, hey, these are our guys.
And in utter desperation, I started a campaign, Go Buy Me a Coffee, which isn't a platform we ever used before. And we don't like using off other third-party platforms. They take a percentage of the money. And we've gotten 7 individuals to donate. So far, we've raised like $475. No, excuse me. I think it's $625. And I think most of them are already members of the order. Or volunteers in the order. A few, 2 or 3 are not. And I want to thank the one person from Poland, and I think we have maybe a Canadian or Australian outside. Yeah. So we've raised a total of maybe $600-700. Our first donor was a Catholic of Chinese descent. I just want to point that out to show you, to shame some of you Americans who know that Russia is our enemy and has been since the Second World War, and was responsible for killing so many of our men indirectly in Korea and Vietnam and in Afghanistan and Nicaragua, the Caribbean, Colombia, Venezuela, and all the other places Russia's been sponsoring terrorists or militias or Marxist revolution.
Yeah.
And I can't really say that, the price of the drones used to be $6,600, it's now $7,400. So it's gone up $800, and we've raised only $600. We're not even raising money fast enough as the price goes up on these drones, because everyone wants these drones. And these aren't high quality drones, okay? 6,600 sounds a lot, but it only has an 8-kilometer range, and it does have a nighttime vision camera. And so these are not to take out enemy artillery. This is so the volunteer unit can at least know what their enemy is and where they are within range of them, like who's shooting at them. And why is this unit asked us? Because I saw their contact information. I contacted them. I said, what did you need? And this is a volunteer unit, so they aren't paid salaries. So they're doing it solely for the love of their country. And it's not a Christian unit, but it's a Ukrainian unit.
Yeah.
And I feel really bad for them that they were, one of the guys who presented me the letter of his commander, he's now gone on to the front. I don't know if he's alive or dead yet, but I can't say how bad I feel that we haven't even raised one thing on his list in a month's time. They obviously think that we must not be a serious organization. And we've had at times 200 subscribed members to Ordo Militaris when we were talking about helping the Christians in the Mideast. I don't understand why, if Muslims are blowing up Christians in the Mideast, or if Russian Marxists are blowing up Christians in the Ukraine, there's a difference for our supporters.
Yeah.
You know, maybe Agent can say something to motivate, explain why it's so important having drones.
Yeah. So be able to see the enemy at nighttime is huge. These drones will allow you to see in the dark, yes, with night vision cameras, but the cameras on these drones are thermal. They will tell you exactly where the bad guys are, where their equipment is, so that they can either bypass them and go around them to capture them, or to call in the heavy guns to make sure that they are not wasting ammo that they do not have, because the West is this gagging around.
And if you've ever been hunting, you know the absolute advantage of having a thermal camera. The only advantage the Ukrainians can have in this war is at nighttime, because the Russians don't have thermal lenses for their troops. Their troops are all blind at night. And the Russians outgun and have by 10 to 1 the Ukrainians, even though they have roughly the same amount of personnel on the front lines. But this is a work of mercy, and it's a work. I mean, if you want victory, that's, you know, one of the programs. It's only one of the things they requested us, but it's the most essential of them. And they only asked us for 1 drone in their humility. We're trying to raise money for 4 drones, because, you know, you can't just use 1 drone. You know, if it breaks, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And you need crews. You need someone training to use it while someone is using it. And you need 4 crews. You can't have a guy sitting operating a drone for 24 hours, not even for 12 hours. He's going to start making mistakes. You're going to need like 4-hour shifts and change the guys out. So you need many drones, because they need to practice on the back lines and stuff. And if one, as I say, if 1 drone gets shot down or needs recharging, another has to take to the air. So 4 drones, this is like a minimum. And this is for a brigade of 300 men. So it's not like we're donating it to a brigade that has 12 men in the field. And they're proven. They took out 4 tanks, and they had a heroic commander who went to the front line himself and paid with his own blood by being blown to bits by a Russian artillery shell, a Russian tank shell.
Yeah.
So they more than merit it. Now, it is true, we're not obliged to give it to them, but in charity, if, as Christ says, if someone asks you and they're in need, how can you refuse them? And so this is the true need. And the Ukrainians are not wealthy people. I was on my way back to Kyiv from Warsaw the other day, and I made it to a town called Rivne, and I was staying in a very cheap hotel, which was only $40 to $5 a night. And a young man came in and he wanted to stay the night. And the woman said, and he said, can I have a room for $15 a night? She goes, we don't have any room at that value. Our lowest value is a $45. He says, I can't afford that. Now, before I understood what was going on, because it was all in Ukrainian, he walked out. I felt so bad. I said, I have determined that if I see that happen again, I'm going to pay the guy's hotel bill, because Christianity is all about helping the poor. Christ came down to help us before we even loved him. And we're poor, wretched sinners.
Yeah.
And he has blessed us. Now, I'm not asking you to give your last two women's mites on this, but I know that some people listening to this have 50, 100, 200, 400, 500,000 in the bank. And even to buy one of these drones wouldn't be a great sacrifice. But I'm not asking for a $7,400 donation from any one of you, but I ask all of you to listen and make some donation and consider this one project. We have many projects. This is one of the crucial ones, and one that, as a military order, our honor is at stake if we can't answer this letter.
Yeah. Next one is to assist the personal expenses at home of qualified military trainers, instructing the Christians in Ukraine how to defend themselves.
Yeah, so this is our UMIF fund, and this is more necessary than you realize, because not only are these Ukrainians rushing off to battle without any equipment, without any training. I met a Ukrainian military instructor, and I said, when you became a military instructor, how long had you been in the Army? He said 2 weeks. So in the US Army, the basic training is 3 months long, and you're trained by men who have seen battle and been instructors their whole lives. And these guys are getting training that's lasting like a week or two from someone who's been using a rifle for a week or two. Now, AJ, you and your family have been hunters for generations. Do you think anyone who's used a rifle for 2 weeks could instruct anyone?
No.
What's going to happen to these guys?
More likely make a mistake with the rifle, get injured by not knowing how it works, or not holding it tight enough against their shoulder, so they're gonna hurt their shoulder. One thing I can think of comes from Heartbreak Hill with Clint Eastwood, where the guy's like, "Goody, my rifle's not working," and here comes Clint Eastwood up to the firing range and nearly shoots everybody.
So these guys need military instructors. And I have met a US Marine here in the Ukraine who could be a military instructor. But he told me, frankly, I have expenses at home. If I were going to take that kind of commitment, how would I pay my expenses? Now, it's true. Military instructors can come to the Ukraine and join the Ukrainian military and sign a contract. But then they're on contract to stay here during the war.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them do have wives and family that are letting them do that. Some of them do have the financial resources to do that. But a lot more don't. And so we're set up this fund so that if one of these guys has a need and yet has the zeal to teach Ukrainians, this is a non-combatant role, and comes to Ukraine and signs up to give this kind of work to a Ukrainian unit, and we know of him, we can make sure that his wife gets a monthly check, maybe $1,000 here, of something of that sort. So he can stay and fulfill his role of teaching these young, heroic Ukrainian soldiers how to properly fight and give them a chance of victory and of survival. And no one has thought of anything like this. We're the only group out there. And enemies of Russia, enemies of Ukraine have gone wild. The mere thought that we were going to do something like this. And we hope to raise funds for this. But I don't think yet we've had any funding for this initiative.
Yeah.
But I would encourage you, this is a way that you can have a tremendous impact on the Ukrainian war effort for a very, very small amount. And you're helping Christian families stay together while doing something heroic. So that no arguments about finances arise and no divorces result. So it's a real work of justice, and I think something very pleasing to our Lord Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I can only think of the words that our Lord's going to ask us at our judgment. Did you feed the hungry? Did you house those who needed housing? Did you feed them? Did you give them drink? Did you clothe them naked? You know what? I'll ask, according to St. John Vianney in his sermon on the Last Judgment, when did I see you naked, hungry, whatever? And he's like, when I came to you as this person, that person, or this person.
Mm-hmm. And the church teaches us, in addition to the corporal works of mercy, there are the spiritual works of mercy, and one is instructing the ignorant. And that includes men who want to fight in war to defend their Christian families, but don't know how. They're ignorant. They need to be instructed. And I appeal especially to Americans, because we more than any people on earth have the sense of righteousness and the economic ability to help.
Yeah.
And I know how many Americans don't have any of their finances in order, so I'm not talking to those. But I know some have their finances in order and have, as I said, hundreds of thousands in the bank for their retirement.
Yeah. And
maybe you're not going to make it to your retirement.
Yeah.
But when you do go, Christ is going to ask what you did with the money that you had the moment he called you. So your best insurance policy is start using it for our Lord. And it's not something great to do. I'm not asking you to give 100,000, but if you want to put it in this fund, that would be great. That would really energize and encourage a lot of people. And then the name of Christ would be exalted, that Christians are doing this wonderful thing.
And to those veteran guys who are doing the body armor, the everything, there's only a handful of you that actually do ship Europe or has a secondary store in Europe. The guys in Adept Armor in Tulsa, who has a store in the Czech Republic, and our fellow Montana neighbors who also have the body armor and stuff that can ship to Poland. We need more of you guys that can do that, and also get your shipping in order so you can get this stuff to Europe, because there's nothing left.
Mhm. Yeah, Europe does not have the military armaments industry that they had in the First World War. Is that all the projects on our list, AJ?
Yeah.
I want to add one more. Okay, so Ordo Militaris Catholicus is our international religious association. It's not a corporation. Ordo Militaris Radio TV is not a corporation. I do a journal from Rome Info. It's not a corporation, but we do have a corporation. It's called Ordo Militaris Inc. of Helena, Montana. And we are a private military corporation, duly registered and incorporated by the Secretary of State of the great state of Montana, very pro-gun. And we're authorized to sell stock. We've never sold any stock except to, I think, my older brother. And we are authorized to sell $5 million worth of stock so that we can open a foreign subsidiary. And if someone called me today and started wanting to buy that stock, this is what I would tell them. A great way we could help as Americans, the Ukraine, defend herself would be to found a private military company in the Ukraine and get the licenses in countries like Poland to import good quality American equipment to Europe and see that the Ukrainian military units get this at the lowest price possible. And this is something that we are legally organized to do. We would need capital. I think we'd need at least $1 million to get it rolling, because we have to rent our own storage facility in Poland and in the Ukraine, and buy at least one rig, or at least lease a rig, and hire drivers, and then get all the licenses to export and import military equipment. I'm talking about just defensive equipment, not guns and ammo. It would take a lot of work to get that done. But once we got it done, we could do it.
Mm-hmm.
But AJ and I can't do it. We don't have a penny in our pocket. But I do know that people listening to this program invest in stocks and or are stockbrokers or are well-off attorneys at law or big property owners. And you know, some of you might have investments in, God forbid, Microsoft or Dow Jones Industrial Indexes. That would maybe it used to include Pfizer, and a lot of godless companies. But none of you invest in a private military company helping Christians. And this is also something in which Christ is going to ask an explanation in your hour of death. What company did you invest in? How about all those companies that, when cities were being burnt down deliberately by arsonists and terrorists just 2 years ago in the United States, all came out and said, that's absolutely wonderful, we're applauding it. Do you invest in any of those companies?
Yeah.
Maybe you could set the balance of the eternal scales of justice right by taking every penny of your investment out of those companies and start putting it in a Catholic companies that do something to defend Christians. And I would beg you consider Ordo Militaris as a possible worthy candidate of your investment. So this is something that's not on our list, but you can go to our website, ordo-militaris.us/invest, and you can read about our T-stock series. And legally, this is something you can do. And as a stockholder, you are in no way liable for the activities of our subsidiary in Europe. So you can't be sued. No one will even know your name because we're a private corporation. And we aren't obliged to list our stockholders in any government report or anything like that. But as I say, in 5 years, we've offered these stock for sale. We haven't found anyone who wants to go that far. And this is in part of the great malaise of modern times, that Catholics are willing to support non-Catholic things. And this is why non-Catholics rule over us and oppress us. But Catholics willing to actually invest their money in Catholic organizations that defend us, there might be some, but I don't know any of any. AJ and I created an opportunity for that to happen. And we've been waiting nearly 6 years. Maybe we'll have to wait another 6 years. But maybe this program will be the seed landing on fertile ground, and one of you out there will be the first.
Yeah. So I have the link to the show page with all the links, but also I'll link each and every little project in the show in the description. And I need you to like this program, share it on social media, off of social media, and some other channels say commenting helps the algorithm on YouTube. So just drop a comment saying hi or something. Just see if we get the viewers and reach the goal around YouTube's censorship.
Yes, please share this program. Ordo Militaris Radio TV can do a lot more for a lot more people, but they don't know about it because you don't share it. And I can assure you, everyone AJ and I knows we do these programs because we share it. Yeah. I share it to at least 1,000 individuals, and I share it to 10,000 individuals, and AJ shares it to several. He has millions of viewers on this site, but most of you are quiet, and we don't see that people are sharing it on other social media channels. So this is, even if you are one of those really poor persons who've listened to this whole program and say, brother, I'd love to help it, but I don't have a penny in the bank. I'm only 12 years old. I'm 95 and ready to die, and I don't have enough money for my false teeth. If you're anyone like that, remember, even AJ doesn't have a penny, is homebound, but he shares stuff on social medias. AJ is a shareaholic on social media. We all need to do that because the algorithms are suppressing all Catholic appeals. So we, each of us, have to be an engine to send out the information. This is not preaching the gospel, but it's right up there.
Yeah. Yeah. So just share, use your email. I know a guy in San Diego who's just like, does one better. He's like, hey, take a look at this.
Yeah, he strung his arms as friends. So, be bold in inviting others to do good. That is the best compliment to a friend that you can make. That is the most honorable thing you can do every day. And it shows the greatest respect for everyone around you. So don't be afraid to do it.
Yeah. This is Order Militaris Radio TV signing off. Deus Vol.
Deus Vol.